Hi, good evening everybody, and welcome to the daily Rambam Shiur, lesson 150 and 151, the 8th chapter of Hilchos Habechirah, and the first until the 5th chapter of Hilchos Klei Hamikdash ve'Ho'ivdim Boi. The first chapter of today is the concluding chapter of the rules of Beit Habechirah, and the major discussion is the Shamiro, the guarding that used to take place around the temple. Not that the temple needs to be guarded, however, as part of the respect and the honor we pay to the one who commanded us upon the temple is by having guards. The Kohanim used to guard in 3 different locations, and the Levim, they used to guard in 21 different locations throughout the temple. On the gates of the temple, on the internal corners, on the gates of the Azor, and so on. The commandments is not only a positive commandment, but it's also a negative commandment, since the way it is spelled in the original text in the Torah, V'shomru es mishmeres hakodesh. They should guard the guard of the holy place. In Hebrew, when a word of v'shomru appears in the scriptures, is a reference to a negative commandment. Everywhere where it is written hishomer, pen, and al, outside the obvious one where it says loi, it is a reference to a negative commandment. There used to be a special inspector named Ish Har Habayis, who used to make sure that the guards are doing their job. The way he was inspecting, by turning to those guards and greeting them. If a respond was heard, he knew things are moving smoothly. If no respond was heard, so part of the disciplinary process, he was even allowed to take his stick and beat the sleeping guard, and occasionally even to burn his garments. And obviously everybody will raise the eyebrows. How come he is allowed to burn his garments? It's baltashchis. There is a prohibition in the Torah to bring any valuable object into a state of waste and destruction, because it's originated from the pasuk when the army is surrounding a city. They should not go and destroy a fruit-bearing tree. And the way the Torah spells, lo yisashchis es eitzo, don't destroy the actual tree that bearing the fruit. This is the original prototype of any form of destruction of valuables, whether it be garments, furniture, when it is a prohibition. So how come a disciplinary person who is in charge to the guards are okay, he can go and beat them, but how come he is allowed to burn their garments? This is a question that was bothering many of the commentators, and some are suggesting perhaps that occasionally a person, in order to bring in a sense of authority, he is allowed to even to break dishes if he feels that that's what will make him or his voice authoritative. But the Rebbe reject the idea, but still it is a property of the temple. How is he allowed to do it? And he suggests the following interesting idea. The Alter Rebbe in the Shulchan Aruch speaking that a person is forbidden to harm himself, since he himself he is a property of God. So for that reason, a person should not cause any physical, direct or indirect harm to himself. However, and the same thing, it is forbidden, he compares the same prohibition that is forbidden to a person to harm himself, it will be forbidden to him to damage and to harm any valuable properties. However, we see that this rule has exceptions. And where is the exception? When it comes to fast in part of the process of teshuvah, a person is in a refining mode, in a repenting mode, as we are all supposed to be in these days. So it will be permitted, subject to many conditions, if health allows him and he really qualifies, to go and fast. Everybody agrees that excessive fasting definitely compromises the health condition of the person. Nevertheless, part of the process of teshuvah, it will be allowed. So same thing when it comes to Ish Hal Habayis, that he is in a educational refinement process to the stuff that's supposed to guard in Har Habayis. So for that reason, he is allowed, and it is totally legit for him to do, if it's necessary, to burn his garment if it will increase and upgrade the level of his awareness and education. In the second chapter, the Rambam deals about the procedures of preparation of shemen hamishcho. Shemen is oil, mishcho is anointment. A Kohen used to be anointed with oil. This particular oil was mixed with many ingredients, which the actual description and the process of preparation is outlined in Parshas Kitiso, in the Chumash Mois. A person is forbidden to use the oil for personal consumption. However, when it comes to the liability, if it is for personal consumption of himself, he will be liable, bemazed with chorus. If he done it deliberately, he will be exposed to chorus. If he had done it unknowingly, he will be subject to chatos. If he has done it in order to smooth dishes or to put on an animal, he will be exempt, since it is written al psar odom, on the flesh of a human. He should not anoint, he should not shmir and use it as a lotion, but anything outside a person, it will be fine. Only high priests and kings used to be anointed with this particular oil. The way the Kohanim used to be anointed, by taking the oil and putting it on their forehead in a shape of a C, our C, the letter C. That's how it used to be on their head. The kings, however, they used to be anointed in a shape of a crown over their heads. However, kings used to be anointed only if there is some challenge to their kingdom, or by a competitive heir, or by outside factors that were challenging his kingdom. So to make a point that he is a total legit king, only then the anointment process used to take place. At the generation of Moshe Rabbeinu, all the dishes and utensils in the temple, they were sanctified by actually taking the oil and anoint them. Any time after it, the actual service and utilization of the utensils into their holy service, that's what sanctifies them. in the process of preparing, if a person does it, we said before it will be forbidden not only to consume it, but also if he actually prepares it according to the description of the Torah in the precise measurement. If he does it for educational purposes or to give it, to donate it to the public, he will be exempt from the above mentioned type of liability. On the altar where the incense used to be brought, anything outside the incense were forbidden. Another issue that is being discussed at that particular last chapter of lesson 150 is carrying the ark. The ark used to have those brichim, the pillars that used to be carrying. It was forbidden to put the ark over any form of a transportation. David HaMelech, once upon a time, he forgot that particular rule, and he was carrying the ark over a wagon, and the person Uzo who used to do it, he was punished, and it was an entire story and discussion for later, which we will cover. But nevertheless, the ark must be carried on the shoulders, and those people who are carrying the ark, they must face each other. Any other form of carrying it is forbidden. Of course, it makes it uncomfortable because one of them will have to move reverse-wise or both of them sidewise, which make it, from a schlepping perspective, quite awkward, but what can we do? That's the ruling. The idea is, one of the ideas that it says that the oil in the ark was not carried by people. The ark has the ability to carry the people. And if this is the case, doesn't matter what will be their physical position, they will be carried anyway. In the first chapter of lesson 151 is about the function and the purpose of the tribe of Levi, which was designated to the service in the Mikdash. We're talking particularly about the Levim. Their job used to be divided into three sections: Shomrim, Shoyarim, Umeshoyarim. Shomrim, guards, as we have mentioned before, 21 locations throughout the temple where they were guarding. On top of it, they had another job called Shoyarim, in charge to open up the gates at the early morning for the service people to serve in the temple. And then Meshoyarim, they used to service in the temple by singing. The Shiro used to take place only when public offerings used to be brought in the temple, as well as Nisu Hayayin, when they pouring the wine for the public offerings. At that time, they used to sing. Though that Ikor Shiro, the primary singing, is with your mouth, nevertheless, they had musical instruments as well. While the minimum amount of singers used to be 12 singers with their mouth, when it came to musical instruments, so not only Levim were participating, but also Israelites as well. The musical instrument had a minimum amount and maximum amounts of instrument. For example, I'm just bringing a few examples. When it came to flutes, the minimum flutes used to be 2, maximum 12. The trumpets, the minimum 2, maximum 120. Violins, minimum 9, no maximum. As many violins we are able to bring in the temple, they are all welcome. Though in the Torah it is written a retirement age for the Levis in the age of 50, the Rambam says it was only at the time of the desert, the tabernacle that used to be with them in the desert. Today, as long as he is able to sing, he is welcome to participate in the Seder, in the singing process. Further than this, even if he is not capable to sing any longer, according to the Rambam, he can still serve as a shoyer to open up the gates or even other jobs. The same way as the Levim are forbidden to serve in the functions of the Kohanim, they are also forbidden to exchange their own jobs. If a Levi who happens to be a shoyer, that his job is to open the gate, and he decides suddenly he wants to sing or he wants to do any other functions, so he is liable to misobidei shomayim, heavenly death. So it is a serious matter. The second chapter of lesson 151 deals with our liability of honor towards the Kohen. The Kohen, it says, Vayavdel, he designated the priest, Kodesh Kodoshim, to be holiest of holy. So obviously we got to give them the first aliyah, we got to give them different gifts that we have covered, we got to give them the privilege to bless us, and so on. The actual service in the temple, originally Moshe Rabbeinu divided all the priests into 8 sections. Each 4 for the descendants of Elazar, which was the son of Aaron, and another 4 to the descendants of Itomo. Later on, at the time of David and Shlomo, since the population, Baruch Hashem, have grown, so they divided into 24 mishmoris, 24 groups. Each and every group, mishmor, goes in its turn to the Beit Hamikdash to do the services that were going on in the temple. At the time of the holidays, everybody must part of the aliyah loregel to ascend to the temple. Also, Kohanim, who were not part of the mishmoris, when they are there, they are sharing equally in the offerings which are associated with the holidays. Any other offerings, they must respect the share of that particular mishmor, of that particular group that were serving that week in the temple. The Kohen Gadol, the high priest, used to be appointed with the approval of the Sanhedrin. And under the high priest used to be an entire hierarchy, starting from a Sgan, which is a vice high priest, and another vice to the vice used to call him Katikoil, and under him used to be Amarkal, and then used to be Gizbor. So it was 4 layers of vice, sort of vice Kohen Gadol, under that they used to help him. The appointment, in addition to the approval of the Sanhedrin, initially used to be through the oil, anointment of the oil. When no more oil was available, so the actual changing the holy garments used to do the replacement of the oil. So by him putting on the garments was a form of dedicating him into the new post. The Kohen Gadol who passes away, the first priority goes to his heir, to his son. And by the way, the Rambam writes that any holy appointment in Israel, whether it is priesthood whether it is kingdom or so on, the priority of continued function goes directly to the heir, to the biological heir, as long as he is a proper sub for his father, bechokmo ubeiro, with wisdom and God-fearing state of mind. Even if he is not as clever, as smart as his father, as long as he is beiro, he is still qualified to continue the job of his father. Which reminds me, I remember when Rabbi Lau, the current chief rabbi, was appointed in Israel, so some of the Israeli correspondent approached his father, previous chief rabbi of Israel, and he says, well, smells like nepotism. So he responded to him cleverly. He says, I know what is nepotism, I know one thing. Wouldn't you think that a person who grew up from the moment he was born with the environment of public service, with the environment of those issues and challenges and lifestyle that associated with that particular job, he will be much more qualified than anybody that is new to him. So whether the actual appointment, as we said, as long as there is a reasonable replacement, so the priority goes to him. Typically, a upgrade is acceptable to go from one post to a higher post, but by default, I'm not downgrading a person from one post to a lower post, unless if a person have done something outrageous, which totally unacceptable, so then I'm removing him entirely. But even then, he writes, if a kohen, for example, he committed a crime that he's subject to malchus, he gets the malchus, but he goes back to his post. So each and every act must be assessed on an individual basis, whether he should go on with his post or whether he should be removed. In the final chapter, the discussion is about the preferred treatment that the high priest gets from his brothers. He is becoming wealthier. He must obviously wear special garment. On the other hand, he must himself treat his own post very seriously. He should not participate in public parties. He should not raise long hairs. Even when people are coming to comfort him at the time of Nichum Avelim, when he lost a precious relative, there is a special style. He is the one who is sitting on a bench and everybody sitting on the floor. The type of haircut he takes is also a very particular one. He must always be in the temple and just leave at night to his home. He's constantly having people who are escorting him and so on. This is one of the few examples how special and unique the treatment towards the Kohen Gadol goes both ways. Goes from the public towards him and him towards his own post in order to maintain a level of respect and honor. When he is becoming a Kohen Gadol, he brings a flower offerings, which is called Minchas Chinuch, the offering of education, of accepting the post. And as well, every day he starts the service in the temple by bringing what we call Chavitei Kohen Gadol. In Hebrew, Chavita is called a scramble, yeah? But the original term of Chavitim came from the daily offering that the high priest used to bring daily. The Rambam illustrates a very interesting case where a person from a nobody suddenly becomes a Kohen Gadol, and in such a case he brings a triple flour offerings. Offering number 1 for becoming a Kohen, offering number 2 for becoming a Kohen Gadol, offering number 3, the daily Minchas Chavitin that he is bringing, what we call Chavitei Kohen Gadol Shebechol Yom. Thank you very much, and Gemara Chasimot Tova.